Hello everyone. Today I am back with days 14 and 15 of my December Daily album from 2019. I am slowly plugging along with this album. I've actually finished all the way up to through day 21. I just haven't had time to edit all the videos. So let me know in the comments below if you'd like to continue to see the layouts that I'm doing for December Daily, or if you're over Christmas. I don't have to keep putting the videos out, but let me know in the comments below, and then I will do what the majority would like to see, or I can, like I said, move on to something else. I'm thinking about continuing junk journaling, but obviously not December daily stuff after I get done with my December daily. And I'm also thinking about continuing to do Project Life. I did skip it last year just because I just wanted to do something different. So I just didn't do Project Life last year. So this year I'm thinking about possibly picking it up again, maybe changing it up a bit. I'm just not quite sure. So I think I mentioned in another video that I was thinking about doing that as well. But let me know what you guys think. If you would like to continue to see junk journaling, if you'd like to see pocket pages, if you'd like to see a little bit of everything, and then also if you would like to continue seeing the pages in my December daily album. So today I am, like I said, I'm working on day 14 and 15. This Christmas card is a card that I actually got from my aunt. She had several Christmas cards that she used to make ornaments, and some of the Christmas cards just weren't going to work for what she needed. So she gave me a whole stash of cards, and I thought this one was really pretty, and I thought it went well with the theme of my book. It is not vintage, but it does have that vintage vibe to it, so I thought this would be perfect for this particular page. So what I decided to do is just make a flip out piece, and I'm making my hinge with some of the dyed muslin fabric. It's just coffee dyed, and I really like that look, and I like how sturdy it is. You can also use washi tape or ribbon or other things like that, but I thought this would be fun to use this fabric piece instead. So now I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do with these photos, how I want to flip them around. I end up deciding that I want to glue this down all the way so I don't actually make a flip with the Christmas tree picture, but you'll kind of see how it goes as I go along. So I did think the background of this paper was a little too white, so I ended up taking my distress tool and just kind of rough it up a little bit, or not rough it up, I guess, but kind of dull it up so it wasn't so white and stark, and just did a little bit on. Didn't do too much, but I thought it kind of toned down that boldness of the white color. Now I'm just gluing down my photo and the mat to some recipe paper, I think it is. I think it was recipe. And I decided to glue that down, so I'm making a pocket. So you'll see how I'm going to use that in a little bit. But now I'm working on this flap at the top, and it's a little hard to film this because just where my camera is and how I had to hold the book, so it's a little bit towards the top of the screen, so I apologize for some of it being out of frame, but this was kind of the only way I could hold the book and still film this part of the video. So that die cut looked a little bit too stark as well, so I just used that brush and added just a little bit of color to it just to tone down that color. And then I'm making a little tab that's going to go on this Christmas card so that you know it's kind of a flap up. And then I will also glue down a little word to the tab as well. And I'm just going to use some liquid glue. Now, this is a fine liner bottle that has some Scotch Quick Dry in it, and it works really well. I like the yellow tip the best. It seems to allow the glue to flow really well. You just need to make sure that you're constantly putting the top back on, which is kind of a pain, but I love the fact that it has such a fine tip on it that it doesn't really bother me too much. So here's where I'm going to glue those word strips on. I'm just going to glue one on the front and then one on the other side. And one says, "Oh, Christmas tree," and the other one says "new ornament," because that picture that I put on that top flap is a new ornament that we got this year from Kohl's. And I'm just going to slip this journaling card in where the photo of the tree is, and I am going to ink around the edges of this card and then glue everything to the back of this. Add another tab just so you know that there's something behind that needs to be pulled out. Again, just using this punch. It's a Fiskars punch. I think it's a Jenny Bolin punch, possibly. I've had this in my stash for quite some time. There's several different tabs that you can get out on the market. I'm not sure if this one's particularly or this particular one's available anymore, but I know you can get all different kinds of tabs, and it's just nice because it's a little bit smaller than the whale punch that I was using earlier for some of the other tabs. So I just glued that down, just doing it on the front side because my journaling was covering too much of the back, so I didn't want to flip it over. So it's just the one half of the tab there, and then that's just going to slip in that pocket perfectly. And the reason it slipped in so well is because I had backed the photo and everything on a couple different layers. So it was a little bit wider than a 4x6. So then that 4x6 journaling card fit in perfect. So I almost forgot about my date. And so I just decided to staple this on here. It's just the number 14 for obviously the day 14. And now I'm going to work on the second half, which is day 15. Now I had this bag from Panera that I thought was pretty cool. I wanted to use it. I'm trying to do more recycling of items that I get either, from, fast food restaurants or packaging or things like that. So I thought this would be a good one to use. I like the brown packaging of the bag, and then I also like the stripe because it is kind of a Christmas themed, and I thought this would work well. So I'm making this little flip book, and so this is going to be pretty much most of the rest of the video because it does take me a while to make this. I'm going to be making kind of like a triple or oh, I don't know what they're called, I don't know what they're called, like a three-way folding pocket card thingy. So I have this pre-made embellishment that has the Santa bingo card on it that I had made previously in a before I started my album. And then I cut down the picture of my dog, mounted it on some tea dye paper or coffee paper, and then just glue that on the front. So that's going to be the front of that little booklet. So now I'm working on the inside of the booklet. I did end up cutting quite a bit of this video out just because it was a lot of just gluing and cutting and things like that, nothing that I really needed to show, and I wanted to keep the video down to a reasonable amount. And so what I mostly did was keep in a lot of the embellishing, just not some of the construction pieces of mounting the photos and cutting down the photos and things like that. So now I have my photos mounted on the coffee dye paper, trimmed out and inked around all the edges. I'm going to take this little doily that I coffee stained, and I'm going to use it as a base to mount some stickers and embellishments here. So I'll show you that in a couple seconds. The paper that I'm using, or sorry, the sticker sheets that I'm using are both from Carta Bella, and the card that I will be using is from the KB and Friends Etsy shop. And that's just another printable that I'm putting down there on the left. So now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do on the right. So I'm kind of planning this out. I'm not really sticking anything down until I have it figured out. So that's kind of why I'm kind of haphazardly doing this one. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted. So I ended up pulling this Christmas tree off of the sticker sheet, and because it was sticky and I wasn't sure if I wanted it there, I just added it to some wax paper. So that's a good tip, that if you are not quite sure where you're going to add your stickers, just grab some wax paper from the kitchen and use that to mount the sticker on, and it kind of gives you an idea of where you want to put things but doesn't make it stick. And then since it's mostly see-through, it is pretty easy to kind of help you figure out if that's kind of where you want to put that sticker. So I am going to ultimately use that Christmas tree and the deer. The deer is going to get popped up a little bit, so you'll see that in a little while. But first I'm going to work on this left-hand side. I'm just gluing this down to some scrap chipboard that I had. It just makes this printable because it is on regular copy paper a little bit more sturdy. It didn't necessarily need to be, but I just thought it would hold up a little bit better than being just this flimsy piece of paper. So I just glued it down to the cardstock, or I'm sorry, the chipboard, and I'm going to use my punch. These recollection punches, that's one thing that I've noticed. They are definitely not as strong as the Making Memories, or not, no, what is it? The EK Success punches, like the whale punches and stuff. They definitely aren't as heavy duty. They're much more, I don't know if they're more cheaply made or just too much plastic or what, but I have noticed that they don't really cut through some of this, even the thin chipboard, very well. So if you are looking for punches and things like that, I would recommend spending a little bit more money getting one of the EK Success or maybe the Fiskars punches rather than the Recollections. I think they hold up a little bit better and are a little bit stronger. I also have noticed that that one Jenny Bolin punch that I was using earlier that did the tab, those ones that are kind of like the, I don't know, the side grippy punches where you kind of squeeze, like if you're doing squeezy exercises, I don't know, those also don't seem to cut very well. And I think it's just how you're applying the pressure to this punch. So I recommend more the punches that kind of squeeze like a clamshell, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's just kind of my experience with the punches, but I haven't bought any punches in a while, actually. That Recollection circle punch is probably one of the last ones I bought. I just wanted something a little bit bigger size. But anyway, back to this little booklet. I've already mounted the Christmas tree and the deer, and I popped the deer up on some foam. And now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to work on this left-hand side. I glue down the doily and the little circle with has a deer and a sleigh with Christmas presents. And I'm just going to sprinkle these little snowflakes around this part of the page. And they do have quite a bit of a white background, so I'm just taking my little inker tool and adding a little ink to them so I tone down that white as well. Now I'm going to work on the flip on the right hand side, so I just flipped that over. I was trying to figure out kind of what I wanted to do. I thought this Hey Santa would look cute, and I had some extra doily left over, so I'm just going to glue that doily down, and I'm going to add the sticker on top of that. So I like how that looks, pretty simple, and I'm using up my scraps, which is always nice. And then I'll just ink around that and throw it across the room, apparently. So ink that. And then I had this little foam snowflake from my hip kit that I had, and I'm just going to stick that down. It already has adhesive backing on it. So then I'm going to glue this photo down. And I just put these on the back of some book page that I knew I wasn't going to be using anymore, and it's perfect to use up some of those book pages that you have in your stash. So now I wanted to add a little bit more embellishing, so I decided to pull out my washi tape, and I'm going to add washi tape on a lot of the edges. I just thought that would look cute and give it a nice kind of finished edge and make it look less like a paper bag and more like an intentional scrapbook piece. So I thought that's a good way to do that as well. I'm just going to add this little star washi here on the side, just folding it over, and I really like how that's looking. Now I am going to add some more washi tape on a couple other places, and then I'm going to end up adding my journaling in the middle there where that Winter Adventure 3x4 card is. I actually end up printing it on some vellum cardstock and then adhering it to the paper and then putting that whole thing down. I was going to type it up on my vintage typewriter, but it just was going to be too much words and it just wasn't going to fit. So I also wanted to kind of work around this Winter Adventures card, so you'll kind of see how I do that in a little bit. Now I really like how this front cover looks, but I also wanted to add a little washi tape here, again just to bring that gold around so it's not just in the one spot on the inside of the book. And then I will glue down this embellishment piece with the picture of my dog. So while I'm doing that, I just want to thank you guys for joining me again on this series. If you're enjoying the videos, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you want to know when I'm posting my next video, you just need to click on the little bell next to the subscribe button, and then that will notify you when I post a video. So here is that journaling I was talking about. I ended up adding a border around it. I thought this kind of fun, scratchy looking border would look cool, so I decided to try that on here. Now, the space that I left open for the journaling card was a little bit bigger than I was intending to do. I was hoping it was going to wrap around a little closer. I think my measurements were slightly off when I set up my computer or my Word program, but it ends up working out okay. I just make sure the glue is in the middle so it's going to get covered up mostly by the card, and then that card just fits in there. And I think it looks okay. It's just it didn't wrap quite as tight as I was hoping. So this is just some glue dots adhesive. I ran out of some of my other adhesives, so I'm just kind of using up the adhesive I have in my stash. And that is a little booklet. I ended up sewing all around the top and the bottom edges with some black thread, and I really like how that looked. It had openings on top and bottom, and I wanted to make sure that was all contained. So now I'm going to put that little mini album in this pocket, but I thought that front of the pocket looked a little boring and plain. So I'm just taking some stamps with my tea-dyed distress ink. I'm going to stamp around a little border kind of corner thing, and then I'm going to add the season's greetings. So at first I was just going to stick this straight down after I inked it, but I decided it just looked a little bit lonely here. So I'm going to end up adding some scrap recipe paper and then some of this cheesecloth. So I'm just kind of playing, trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm kind of folding this paper. I don't know, what is that, like an accordion style? I think there's a term for how that is folded, but I just kind of folded it back and forth. It wasn't like a fan, it was kind of folded in a more of a pleat, I guess. So I just zigzagged across that with some black thread, and I'm going to end up adding that to just the top of the pocket. I didn't like how it was looking behind the season's greetings, and then so I'm going to pull that cheesecloth back out and then add that cheesecloth here in a second behind the season's greetings, and I like that a lot better. And I'm just going to glue that down with the 3-in-1 beacon glue that I'm in love with. Actually, no, I lied. I didn't use the cheesecloth. I end up using this doily instead. I'm thinking of a different page. So yeah, I just cut a doily in half and added it. So I really like how that looks. And then I'll slip that little booklet in, and that's pretty much it. Thanks again for coming along with me this time, and I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.